Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we'll be going through what Michael Carrick had to say about yesterday's win over Crystal Palace and what he had to say about Benjamin Sesko and whether Ahmad could be back for the Newcastle game. Let's find out. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it's a little bit windy, so you might need your parkers. Loads of stories to get through, so we will crack on. Before we do, though, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe, and check out the link for the merchandise. Right, let's start with the obvious news stories doing the rounds are the reaction to yesterday's win over Crystal Palace. We've had the press conference from Michael Carrick. I think we've posted a few clips on our socials. He's been waxing lyrical about the fact that the team were able to come back from being behind at half-time, rally, get the result we needed. Wasn't pretty, wasn't perfect, but the main thing is those 3 points, those essential 3 points that put us third place in the table on goal difference. Can you believe that? Third on goal difference. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. It's not very often you associate Manchester United doing something positive due to goal difference. Anyway, Michael Carrick said he'd almost been waiting for this moment when United were behind at half-time and he had to sort of come up with the answers to that problem, and he did so, and the team got the result, and he was full of praise, as you'd expect, for Benjamin Sesko. Benjamin Sesko, again, getting the winning goal. I mean, this is just what he does. I think it's 6 goals now in his last 7 Premier League appearances, and when you consider, I think only 2 of those appearances have been starts, that's a ridiculous record. And plus, as well, you've also got the fact that he's like the opposite of a stat padder. You know, you get some strikers and they'll score like the 3rd goal in a 3-0 win or whatever. His goals have been essential. It was a winner, won it, against Everton. It's a winner against Crystal Palace. It was the equaliser against West Ham. It's a winner against Fulham. Like, the kid's just popping up with winning and equalising goals left, right and centre. And it showed us to think where we'd be without him. We needed him to do something like this, and he has massively stepped up, and he's rightly getting his flowers. He's giving Michael Carrick something to think about, but a positive thing to think about. It sort of reminds me a little bit of the problems, in inverted commas, that Fergie used to have when it was like, oh, can I leave out Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he keeps scoring, but then am I going to drop Andy Cole or Dwight York, or Teddy Sheringham's an option as well. He had to sort of rotate players. It was good to see, and we feel like we're in a little bit of that now, not to that extreme, obviously, where we've got like 4 world-class strikers and we're fighting for Champions Leagues and all the rest of it, but there is a conversation to be had, and the manager's mentioned that. He mentioned the fact that Ahmad missed out against Crystal Palace and he could be back in the team for the game against Newcastle this week as well. And he is going to have to, I think, shuffle his pack a little bit. We'll get to injuries in a minute, but I think we've seen it this season where we looked a little bit, in my opinion, leggy against West Ham. Now, you can argue, well, you should be able to play 2 games a week or whatever, but that game came just after, I think it was the Fulham game, wasn't it? And he could see that the players just probably not used to it, definitely not used to playing 2 games in a week, and struggled a little bit. And I think you might see a little bit of that against Newcastle. Tough ground to go to, St James's. I mean, they've got a patchy record there. I'm not going to dispute that, but it's still a tough ground, and our record there isn't great. So he might have to mix it up a bit. He might look at it. Does he bring Ahmad back in? Does he maybe rest Mateus Cunha or Brian Mbeumo? I doubt it. It's certainly the case of Brian Mbeumo, but he might do. Mateus Cunha doesn't start every game, so he might decide to give him a little bit of a rest. He spoke about Mateus Cunha yesterday, and he said about how he'd told him about going on the outside and cutting inside and stuff like that. He said at half-time he just made little tweaks. He didn't sort of take a lot of credit for it. He said, I'm not going to take credit for the players getting, responding so well. He said it was just minor tweaks, but the players more or less took it upon themselves and did what they needed to do. So whilst he was full of praise for Benjamin Sesko and the players, he didn't want to take too much credit for anything he'd done tactically to get Manchester United the win. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the midweek game at St James's. Does Ahmad come back in? I think he probably will, but who misses out? Does he drop Sesko, who can't stop scoring and he's now starting games and scoring as well? Or is he the one to miss out? Let me know in the chat, in the comments. Give us your opinion. Let me know what you think. Do you stick with the same team? Do you bring Ahmad back in? If you do bring Ahmad back in, who are you taking out of the team? Can you afford to drop Benjamin Sesko when he's playing as well as he is? Or do you look at it and go, well, he also scores when you bring him off the bench anyway? So, like I said earlier, some nice problems to have. One problem he isn't so nice that he has got to look at is what's happening with Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw. He was a bit vague on the situation with both those players going off injured. Well, say injured. Luke Shaw went off injured, didn't he, in the first half. Harry Maguire went off and I think he went down a tunnel, so there's obviously an issue there. He said they weren't feeling too well. That was like the only update he gave, which isn't really an update. So I'm hoping we're going to find out a little bit more in the Newcastle pre-match presser later on this week. We'll see what's happening with the likes of Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire. Maybe we'll have an update on Mateus de Ligt as well, and Mason Mount. Those are the players that are missing out. Lissandro Martinez, I almost forgot about, the Butcher. He's another one that we expect to be back soon, so maybe we can find out what's going on with him. Obviously, Paddy Dorgu, or Ballon Dorgu to give him his official name, isn't expected back, I think, until the Leeds game, so I don't expect any update on that one. But there's a few players there that we're missing now, and it is a little bit concerning that these injuries are racking up a little bit, aren't they? Because losing Dorgu was a blow, then you lose Martinez, it's another blow. Now you could potentially, I don't want to be melodramatic because we don't know yet, but we could potentially lose Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire, or one of them. So you're just sort of chipping away, aren't you, your first team, which isn't ideal. So we'll wait and see what happens. Hopefully it won't be too serious for either of those players. We can get them back in the squad for the trip to Newcastle, because we need them, don't we? In other news, there is other news. Adelio Candido, if I'm saying that name right, because I always struggle with that one, don't I? You might remember him. He's the former coach at Manchester United, elite level coach at Manchester United. He's been talking about his time at the club, and he was saying that, unfortunately, one of the reasons it didn't work out is that some of the ideas they had weren't implemented. I think he gave an interview to Ball, I think it is. He said that the ideas that they tried to bring in weren't implemented. He also said he didn't sort of pay any attention to any of the noise about what was going on social media. He just sort of listened to the work group that they were in, and that was all the sort of feedback or any sort of comments they listened to. So, look, we haven't heard much from Amorim or his coaching staff since he left Old Trafford. I think this is the first time any of them have spoken, or it's been noted in the papers that they've spoken. I think the Evening News have picked it up, but as I said earlier, it's from this interview that he's given. It doesn't tell us a lot, does it? I mean, he's sort of saying, they're trying to do things and they weren't implemented properly. You can make of that what you will. I'm guessing that's going to be the sort of party line for Amorim and the rest of his coaches when they do eventually speak up. I don't expect they're going to say, oh yeah, it was our fault. I think it's going to be it was a work in progress, and it wasn't given the time it needed to fully progress. So I get that. Let him know what you get involved in the chat and the comments. I don't want to sort of go on about Amorim too much. I know he's obviously still relevant because he was the manager of the football club this season, but I just feel like we keep going backwards, don't we, when we talk about Ruben Amorim, and it just gets into that whole debate, like what would happen if we sacked him sooner? Should we have stuck with him? Would we be where we are now if we'd have stuck with him? Would he have got us Champions League football? Would it be better off if we never had appointed him? All that jazz. It just gets a little bit counterproductive, doesn't it? And he doesn't really sort of get us anywhere as such. As I've mentioned constantly throughout this, we're going to have the presser for the Newcastle game later on this week. We're going to have the preview for the Newcastle game later on this week as well. Plus, we're going to have the Paddock podcast later on today. Plus, you're going to have Uncensored. Plus, you're going to have Stephen Howson's reaction to yesterday's win over Crystal Palace, if you can hear me with that street sweeper going off there in the background. So there's loads of content there for you to get your teeth into. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. And if you've not done already, you can get Andy Tate's reaction to yesterday's win over Crystal Palace. Let me know what you thought about that win as well, because it was a bit of a tough one. We have had some tough games recently, haven't we? I think the performances haven't been ideal, but we have been getting results, and I'll say that. I'd rather have sort of tough performances or under-par performances and good results rather than bad results and better performances, if that makes any sense. And I'm not trying to knock the lads for the game yesterday, because, listen, they got over the line and there was some good football in it. I just don't think it was as good as we've seen under Michael Carrick, if I'm allowed to say that. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Go and check the link out for the Paddock merchandise as well. Big thank you to everyone who supports the channel by buying the merch and also gets themselves some top quality merchandise. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.